What makes us human? Is it our capacity for self-awareness? But with having self-awareness also comes the innate terror and mental fragility that is brought on by the understanding that our existence in itself is problematic, so we are forced to find meaning within it. Personal and mental security tends to be the solution to this problem, whether that comes in the form of religious belief, scientific exploration, or familial duties. But there is a fracture within this pursuit for meaning and answers that leads to a mental crossroads within an individual. We can either wander out for betterment and in search of truth and honesty, or lash out in a form of destruction. This good and evil juxtaposition is a permanent inhabitant of the human psyche. Our serotonin systems govern our emotional regulation, and thus, we crave status and approval regardless of which path we take. It is simply human nature. We either fall under an umbrella of selfishness and artificiality, or become a small part in a benevolent whole. We are flawed to be certain, but our ability to produce hate or to create unquestionable devotion perhaps gives us distinction as being human. And so I ask, what's the first thing that comes to mind when thinking of the movie AI, Artificial Intelligence? I'm assuming it's the ending. You either believe that Spielberg somehow ruined Kubrick's original vision, or that it slapped a happy fairy tale ending on a bleak and otherwise unforgiving universe. What I think about when thinking of the end of AI, Artificial Intelligence, is Teddy. As an audience, we care about David, because on the surface he appears to be human, while Teddy, although charming, is considered nothing more than a toy due to the nature of his shape. But is David deserving of our affections? And if so, why? David is shown as being quick to violence, uncaring of others' emotions, uncontrollably competitive, egotistical, and more or less heartless towards the plights of other artificial intelligence. He sees nothing wrong with being aggressive with Martin, shows no emotion when Joe was captured by police, which is ironic and somewhat humorous seeing as Joe has committed no crime, while David has just finished beheading artificial intelligence of himself. He doesn't seem to care about the well-being of Teddy, and any concern he does show is simply a programmed defense mechanism designed for his own selfish need for survival. What makes David human is his proclivity for anger and his manipulative nature. We empathize with David because subconsciously we can relate to him and his ego-driven desires. Teddy, meanwhile, is framed as being compassionate, altruistic, and willing to sacrifice himself for the betterment of David. He uses cunning to attempt to set David free from the flesh hunters, and goes back to David even though he is a thoughtful young girl showing interest in taking care of him. Teddy is a benevolent being who exists simply to be trampled by the tyranny of David. Perhaps we do not relate to Teddy because we do not want to view ourselves and humanity as being vulnerable, and are so quick to feel empathy for David because we are unable to acknowledge our treatment of those who hold us up, as we are blinded by our own desires. My love of this film stems from the idea that David is not in fact our protagonist, but rather Teddy is, and that we are just as guilty as David's adoptive parents, Monica and Henry, of being cold and uncaring towards AI that deserves our affection. By viewing Teddy as nothing more than an object, we are able to ignore our own fragilities. David is constantly shown treating Teddy as a toy, just as Monica and Henry had done to him. He has Teddy help him to write notes to Monica that talk poorly of Teddy. And after Teddy attempts to save David from the flesh hunters, David is seen leaving the grounds with Joe and forgetting about Teddy. And later, Teddy is shown sewing himself back together without any concern from David, just as he had to do while under the ownership of Martin, a boy who as an audience we are trained to dislike for his perceived cruelties towards David. Our eye, however, is drawn to David. We are fully invested in his desire to find Monica, even though we know it is futile. We empathize not in his quest to find love, but in his quest for answers. Answers for his abandonments and the resentment we as an audience have built in our own lives. Teddy constantly tries to guide David in the right direction, and unlike David, Teddy is not tethered to anyone. His love for David is a real love, not one brought on by programming. He is our benevolent hero. What makes David human is not his love for Monica, which is an artificial construct, but rather the shallow and selfish behavior he continues to show that other artificial intelligence does not seem to possess. Joe sacrifices himself for David and expects nothing in return. The nanny-bot tries to be a mother to David and gives him a look of comfort while she is being killed. Scrapyard robots also help David to understand the ways of the world unselfishly, and the advanced mecha at the end of the film attempt to grant David what he desires most. David, however, helps no one and attempts to kill himself, and in a way succeeds, as he kills a later model of himself in anger, while shouting about how special he is and how Monica is his and his alone, He is a human because he hates and is driven by ego, and as an audience we are just as guilty as David of these crimes. We empathize with David and forget about Teddy, because to us, Teddy is nothing more than a fragile toy, a mirror to our own fragility. The flesh hunter, Lord Johnson, is right when he calls out the audience on their attraction to David. One woman shouts that artificial intelligence do not cry out, but this is just not true. It's just that the other AI do not possess human form. We, just like the bystanders at the flesh fair, care more about the shape than the emotions behind the figure. We believe in David because he looks human, but in every other regard he is nothing but a shallow programming. We believe in the shell and nothing more, our own version of shallow programming. Teddy, in stark contrast, looks like a toy but expresses all the emotions and rational thought we expect from a human, but we continue to view him as a toy. David and Teddy are two sides of the same person. David, the cold, selfish, delusional, and resentful side, while Teddy is the warm, loving, rational, and benevolent side. Yet David is our chosen hero. So with all this said, is Monica wrong to abandon David? David was not provoked by Martin when he almost drowned him. Martin actually tries to defend his brother in this scene, showing that Martin does have affections towards David. Sure, it was an accident, but he is still a threat to Martin. If a dog bites a child, even out of self-defense, we are taught to remove the dog from the family. And a dog is a lot more capable of humanity than David is. So why are we so attached to David's plights? David is not the one deserving of our empathy. He has learned nothing throughout his existence. He has no issue abandoning those that love him. Monica expressed sincere guilt in leaving David, but David shows no emotions while abandoning Teddy, or while watching Joe being arrested. So that last shot of Teddy sitting alone at the foot of the bed, as the boy he loved and continuously risked his life for, puts himself to sleep forever, is far from a happy ending. It is a gut punch that shows the cold, selfish nature of David, and holds a mirror to humanity as we participate without concern or caring about Teddy's own abandonment. We are the tyrannical force that are too self-focused to acknowledge Teddy's altruism and sacrifices, as to us he is nothing more than an object for our personal betterment.